confirmation in some ways with what the Duchess was saying, certainly publicly versus privately, in this email that was sent allegedly to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced paedophile financier, who of course was a long-time associate of her ex-husband, Prince Andrew.
It had been years since Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, was at the centre of a royal storm, but the latest revelations had dragged her right back into the headlines. Her words, written in an email more than a decade earlier, had resurfaced, and what they revealed left the public divided once again about the woman known as Fergie. According to reports, the Duchess had written a glowing note to the disgraced financier, describing him as her supreme friend and steadfast support. The tone was warm, even affectionate, completely at odds with her earlier public statements, where she had condemned him and vowed never to speak to him again. It seemed an extraordinary contradiction, and in a world where perception was everything, the resurfaced email ignited a wave of questions about her judgment, her honesty, and her continuing link to scandal.
The Duchess of York has been removed as a patron of a children's hospice following her email correspondence with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The charity Julia's House says it would be inappropriate for the Duchess to continue.
Fergie's since spoken out on the scandal, with her spokesman issuing a shocking statement. The message, he explained, was apparently not at all what it seemed. It had been written under pressure, in fear, at a time when the Duchess felt threatened. She had been, in his words, bedridden with fear, believing that the man she had distanced herself from was about to sue her for defamation. The email, her team insisted, was simply a desperate attempt to placate him, to calm the situation, and to protect not only herself, but also Prince Andrew. This statement has done very little to calm the noise. For the British public, this was not just about a single email. It was about a pattern. Sarah Ferguson had for decades been the royal who courted both sympathy and scandal in equal measure.
Did you take the money? At one stage you had $40,000 cash sitting in front of you. Did you take it?
Absolutely, yes. And it was given to me and I got it in the car and then returned it straight away.
Once the scandal broke?
As soon as I knew it was a scandal, not once it broke, Michael.
She was, depending on whom you asked, either a misunderstood woman constantly trying to redeem herself, or a duchess who could never quite escape poor decisions. And this time, her timing could not have been worse. The royal family is still grappling with the aftershocks of Prince Andrew's own fall from grace. His reputation had been battered, his public role stripped away, his military titles returned to the crown. Every move connected to the Yorks was now examined through the harshest possible lens. So when reports surfaced of the Duchess calling a disgraced financier her supreme friend, even if that message was years old, it cast Fergie's statement of defence that she had acted on advice to assuage threats.
I can have someone a patron for charities that are helping children, and this patron is openly friends with a known paedophile, and she knew he was a paedophile by that point. Makes me want to vomit.
I mean, there are certain things you can recover from, JJ, right? We had a prince that was involved in tampon gate, right?
Painted a picture of a woman cornered. She had said she was terrified of what could happen if the situation escalated. Her spokesman insisted she was trying to protect Prince Andrew, not hurt him. The Duchess, he said, had lived in overriding fear, and wrote those words merely as a strategy, not an expression of true feeling. But the British public, ever sceptical of royal spin, wondered, if she had truly cut ties, why had she reached out at all? Sarah's earlier interview in March 2011 had seemed final. She had gone on record, apologising for what she described as a gigantic error of judgment in accepting money from the financier. She had promised to repay every penny, vowed never to have contact with him again, and spoke with what sounded like genuine remorse. For a time, the storm seemed to pass. Then,
British tabloids have published emails sent by the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, the former wife of Prince Andrew, that appear to show Sarah Ferguson thanking pedophile disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein for their...
Barely a month later came that email. In it, she had written that she was humbled, apologetic, and grateful to her supreme friend. It was an odd choice of words for a woman who had just told the world she wanted nothing to do with him. Even if the intention had been to calm a legal threat, it struck many as bizarrely deferential. To her critics, It reinforced an old narrative that Sarah Ferguson had a habit of surrounding herself with the wrong people, often in pursuit of financial rescue. Fergie's financial troubles had been public knowledge for years. After her divorce from Prince Andrew, she had struggled to maintain her lifestyle. She had tried everything from publishing children's books to launching wellness ventures and endorsing diet programs, but the debts mounted. There were stories of unpaid staff, loans from friends, and whispers that her royal connections were occasionally leveraged in awkward ways.
Is the Duchess of York Epstein's scandal about to hit her in the pocket? Well, maybe. Let me explain why. The charities linked to Sarah Ferguson on Monday certainly moved quickly to distance themselves from her.
So when news first broke that she had accepted £15,000 from the disgraced billionaire, many saw it as yet another chapter in a familiar story, a duchess under pressure, turning to the wrong source for help.
Her insistence that she had been taken in by his lies was met with a mix of sympathy and scepticism. It was possible, yes, that she had been misled. She was far from the only high-profile person to fall for a charming financier's facade. But others pointed out that the warnings had already been public when she accepted the money. By the time the email was revealed, it became more than a personal embarrassment. It symbolised how difficult it was for the Duchess to fully step away from controversy. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew's own troubles loomed large. His ties to the same financier had already cost him his royal duties, and public opinion was brutal.
A children's charity is distancing itself from Sarah Ferguson. After an email the Duchess of York sent to convicted under Jeffrey Epstein in 2011, calling him a, quote, supreme friend resurfaced, Child Hospice Center Julia's House has issued a statement confirming they'll no longer be associating with the royal.
The image of the Duke and Duchess of York, once seen as a lovable, if slightly chaotic, royal duo, was now mired in suspicion. The irony was not lost on anyone that Sarah Ferguson had long styled herself as Andrew's greatest defender. The pair had remained unusually close after their divorce, living together at Royal Lodge in Windsor, co-parenting their daughters, and speaking warmly of each other in interviews. Their relationship had often been held up as a testament to enduring friendship, but it also meant that any blow to one of them was, inevitably, a blow to both. As the scandal spread, the Duchess's public defence became a balancing act. She wanted to clarify the email without reigniting memories of the original connection. Her spokesman stressed again that she had been manipulated, that she had tried to manage a threat, and that she deeply regretted any association. The Duchess, his statement read, spoke of her regret about her association many years ago. Like many people, she was taken in by lies. As soon as she became aware of the extent of the allegations, she cut off contact and condemned him publicly. That was the official line. But in the court of public opinion, things were not so tidy. Many found the timing suspicious. Why had this come to light now? And why, they asked, did it seem that the Duchess was always just one headline away from yet another controversy? The British tabloids relished every twist. They revisited old scandals, the infamous toe-sucking photographs from the 1990s, the cash for access sting, her near bankruptcies, and the constant reinventions. For years, Fergie had worked hard to reshape her image. She had spoken openly about self-forgiveness, resilience, and growth. She had built a second career as an author and charity ambassador, and even enjoyed something of a renaissance on social media. Her appearances at royal weddings and public events had been warmly received. She had become a grandmother, and her relationship with Prince Andrew, though unconventional, was seen as evidence of enduring affection. Then the email story hit.
It's been a steady but sustained stream of charities who've removed Sarah Ferguson or publicly distanced themselves from her. There's now 6 in total. The Duchess of York was last publicly seen a week ago going to the funeral of the Duchess of Kent here with her ex-husband Prince Andrew.
And suddenly, that fragile reputation was once again on trial. The Duchess tried to push through the noise. She granted a few controlled interviews, reiterating her remorse and her desire to move forward. Her language was careful, often emotional, sometimes even spiritual. She spoke about learning from mistakes, about healing, and about how she wished only to do good in the world. But the skepticism lingered. Royal watchers noted that the palace remained silent. There was no statement of support, no visible sign that Buckingham Palace wanted to defend her. Given the sensitivity around Prince Andrew, that silence was telling. For King Charles, already focused on preserving the dignity of the crown amid so many modern challenges, another headline linking the Yorks to past scandals was the last thing he needed. Insiders whispered that patience within the royal household was wearing thin. Even as Sarah insisted that the email had been nothing more than an act of self-protection, it reopened uncomfortable questions about judgment, accountability, and credibility, questions that had followed her for most of her adult life. The Duchess of York had long been something of an enigma. She was vivacious, open, and famously warm, qualities that had once endeared her to the British public. But those same traits, her spontaneity and lack of filter, had also led to missteps. The difference this time was that the stakes were higher. With Prince Andrew sidelined and the monarchy trying to modernise its image, any association with controversy risked undermining that effort. And Fergie's renewed media attention came just as discussions about the future of the Yorks, their residence, their funding, and their role within the family were becoming more urgent.
There were reports of tension over Royal Lodge, the sprawling Windsor estate that she and Andrew continued to occupy. The upkeep was costly, and with Andrew no longer a working royal, speculation grew about whether the king might eventually ask him to downsize. The Duchess's situation inevitably tied into that broader question. What role, if any, should she still play in the royal landscape? Throughout the turmoil, Sarah Ferguson maintained her signature optimism. She thanked her supporters, spoke of forgiveness, and posted reflections about kindness and courage. In public, she smiled, the same radiant smile that had charmed Britain back in the 1980s when she first married Prince Andrew. But behind that composure, there was little doubt that this new controversy had taken a toll. For years, Fergie had been trying to rebuild her brand, to separate herself from the scandals of the past. She had become a spokesperson for resilience, writing about overcoming adversity and embracing authenticity. Yet here she was again, forced to explain herself over an old email, defending not just her words, but her very character. Observers noted that her response this time was notably restrained. Gone were the tearful confessions or dramatic interviews that once characterised her damage control efforts. Instead, her tone was calm, deliberate, almost weary. Perhaps, they suggested, she had finally learned that less was more. Still, for many royal watchers, the lingering question was not what she had written, but what it revealed about her judgment, and by extension, about Prince Andrew's continued reliance on her. The two had always presented a united front, and even after all the public scrutiny, they continued to share a home. It was a situation that fascinated and baffled the public in equal measure. Were they friends, ex-spouses, or quiet partners weathering the storm together? In some ways, the Duchess's defence of her email echoed her lifelong defence of Andrew. Loyal, protective, perhaps to a fault. Her need to shield him, even from embarrassment, seemed woven into her nature, yet that loyalty had also kept her tethered to controversy.